Everybody, my name is Riley. I'm the writing director here at Lemire College Consulting, and for today's video, I'm going to go over the 3 things that every successful Common App story needs to have. So to give some background, the Common App is 650 words, and it's essentially an open-ended essay about anything from your life. There are some prompts that come with it, but these are just suggestions. You don't need to answer them. You can ignore them if you wish. And the Common App is something that's very important because you're going to be sending it to every single school that you apply to outside of the UC schools. So it is something that's significant, and it's something that we work on with you for quite a while here at LCC. So I would say that there's no right way to write a Common App essay because it is so open-ended. However, there are a few wrong ways to do so, but if you follow these 3 tips, hopefully we can avoid that altogether. So the first thing that every Common App story needs to have is that it needs to be an exciting story with some sort of action in it. So there's a couple different ways to do that. It could be funny, maybe a funny story between you and friends in high school. It could be something that's entirely unique to you. We had a student a couple of years ago who wrote about having a surgery on their ears and having to overcome hearing loss as a kid. That's definitely very unique, and it makes for an interesting story. We also had a kid who had an amateur rap career, and they found to rap was a way to kind of overcome their shyness in school. And that's certainly unique, and that definitely made for an engaging and interesting story. Another option is action. Everyone likes sports. Sports make great Common App stories. One of the best Common App stories I've ever read actually was a girl who practiced Taekwondo, and she began by talking about her experience in the Taekwondo ring. So action, comedy, something very unique. These are great things to exhibit in a Common App story. Number 2, every Common App story needs conflict. Now, this is actually one of the most common things and reasons why we'll actually send a Common App story back to be revised some more. We very frequently get Common App stories that just don't have enough conflict in them. This should not be a success story about you achieving everything that you've set out for. We do really need to see you struggle against some sort of obstacle. So it needs conflict. And there's 2 types of conflict, I would say. There's personal conflict, which involves overcoming something internally, something within your personality or within your behaviors. This is very common, and some examples we might see are a story about you overcoming shyness, a story about you overcoming a lack of self-esteem, standing up for your beliefs, standing up for yourself, standing up for yourself in the classroom or within your community. It might be any kind of combination of those. And then, of course, there's also the outside conflict. And this is a little bit less common. We don't see this as often, but the outside conflict can also really work well. And this is a story about you overcoming something that's external to you, right? So this could be a societal thing, something like overcoming stereotypes or prejudices, and how you've dealt with them in your life and how you've broken out of those molds. It could also be something political, how you struggled for something politically in the world and how you've tried to change the world because of those political beliefs. It could also be a conflict within your school or within your community or within your family and how that has affected you personally. One thing to remember if you decide to go this route and talk about an external conflict is that you still need to make the story personal to you. You need to somehow make this story relate to you on a very personal level. And just to give you a very brief example, we had a student a couple years ago who did a lot of environmental activism, and she wanted to talk about her club that she created and all the protests that she went to. And to make this external thing, right, this external political kind of conflict applied to her personally, she decided to talk about her own health and how her health was she believed detrimented and affected by pollutions coming from chemical plants within her neighborhood. So she was able to make this external thing very personal to her, and it ended up being a very successful Common App story. So number 1, every Common App story needs to be exciting, humor, action, etc. It needs to have conflict, and usually more conflict better, personal conflict and external conflict. And then the number three thing that every story needs to have is some sort of personal transformation, something that's going on underneath the surface of the story, right? There needs to be some sort of deeper significance, and you as a person need to change over the course of the story. And this is actually the most important part of the essay, and it's the most difficult thing to get down. So while you do need to tell an interesting and engaging and funny story, you also need to show how you've changed, how you've adopted new beliefs, how you become a better person, etc. Just to give you an example, so say you want to write a story, you play soccer, you want to write a story about how by practicing extra hard one summer you got better at playing soccer. Okay, that's fine. I think that would make for a fine story. There's conflict in it. Sports, everyone likes sports, so it's engaging. It's got a kind of a climax and a resolution to it. But the question is, why should we really care that you became a better soccer player? Why should Stanford University or MIT care that you became a better soccer player? Well, the answer is they're not really going to care unless you can tell them why they should, unless you can fit some other personal transformation within the story. So while you're telling them how you became a better soccer player, you also better be telling them how by doing so, you also became a better person, student, citizen, etc. So perhaps by becoming a better soccer player, you also realize the importance and value of dedication, hard work, practice, and perseverance, right? Maybe by becoming a better soccer player, you also realize that well, maybe you realize that you're actually not that great of a soccer player, and that you come to terms with that, and that you now realize that you're no longer afraid of failure, and that's okay. Maybe you realize that your strengths are within leadership, within supporting the team, picking everyone up, setting up plays, getting the defense out of their rhythm, and etc. Whatever it is, by becoming a better soccer player, you need to show us how you've changed as a person, becoming a better person, better student, and so forth. So with all that said, it's a lot to take in, but those are the three things that every Common App story needs to have. And the Common App could be frustrating to work on. It's difficult, but it can also be very exciting. So I look forward to speaking with you all soon, and best of luck to everybody.